right, D. So after the Clayton fight, that was for the IBF final eliminator to be Errol Spence's mandatory. How do you see that playing out?
You mean if they fight, or do you mean the business side of it? Do they fight? Do they fight, or if they actually do fight?
No, if they would fight, because
are they
going to fight? I doubt it.
Fight. Okay, yeah. And if I was Spence at this stage in the game, no shade, I wouldn't fight him right now either. Not because I don't think Spence has a shot in hell or anything like that. It's just business-wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense to take on that type of risk without the reward. Right now, there's bigger fights that he can make and still later on come back and fight Boots on his way down, or later on, still make that type of money off of it. So I wouldn't fight him now. But if they were to fight, whether it's now or 2 years down the line somewhere, I've always said, like, the way you fight a southpaw is by being a southpaw, number one, or fighting going to your right. A lot of people say go to your left and try to out leverage their right foot, a southpaw's right foot. But the way to do that is by going to the right and then, stopping and going back left. Bernard did that to Tarver quite a bit. You see guys doing that. Dre Ward did that to Chad Dawson. But there's certain guys that do it, but nobody speaks it. They always speak just, go to your left. But anyway, with that said, I think Boots can fight a southpaw in his conventional stance. And I think he can definitely fight as a southpaw just as well, if not better, than Spence. And I know people are going to feel some type of way about me saying that. It's not because I'm a Boots fan. It's just that Spence is a seek and destroy guy who comes forward, fights well going forward, doesn't fight very well going backwards. And he moves his head enough, but he's not a defensive-minded guy either. Boots has great defense out of both conventional and southpaw stances. And I haven't seen Spence have to deal with a guy who can literally jab you out of the southpaw stance all night. I haven't seen Spence have to deal with anybody that can do that to him. That's why the Spence and Crawford fight is going to be interesting, because Crawford can do that too. But I think as far as transitioning from offense and offensive creativity that Crawford has, but the defense of like a James Toney type of guy, Boots got that. So it would be difficult for Spence to, I think, change his stripes this late in the game and deal with the things I think Boots brings to the table. But I know Boots is the type of guy. You got problems, right? And you got problem solvers. And a problem can be a problem forever, and people may never solve it. Like, you see guys like, we're going back to Bernard Hopkins, but Tito Trinidad, that left hook was a problem, right? Until he met Bernard Hopkins. Then, once somebody solve it or crack the code, those problems usually, they on their way out, or, other people come and mimic that style to beat that problem.
Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev.
Exactly that. Dre Ward, Sergey Kovalev. You got Margarito, Shane Mosley, you know what I mean? So on. So it's like you got guys that come in, Jarrett Hurd and J-Rock, you know what I mean? You got guys that come in and they present a certain style that seems so dominant that you can't deal with it. But you usually can pick those guys out because they're not very fluid, meaning they don't have a lot of different styles. They, it's like, remember the Titans, so to speak. They come in, they're going to do what they do, and you just going to have to deal with it. And as soon as somebody learns how to solve that problem, other people can mimic that. Like the 4-minute mile back in the day. Remember, nobody could run the 4-minute mile. Then once somebody did it, everybody could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Once somebody ran the 4-minute mile, the other dude ran in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Because it's just like you got that problem down. So to say that about Spence is just like this, man. Spence is like one of the toughest problems to solve in boxing today. I'll give him that, hands down. He's a problem. Earned everything that he got. I love his style. I like his tenacity. He's evil. He fights with evil intentions. But I do think that Boots has what it takes to be able to deal with that. That doesn't mean he just walks in and wins. But it does mean that style-wise, stylistically, Boots brings more to the table than Spence. That's just my opinion from what I've seen out of both guys. So that would be interesting. That would be an interesting fight. Spence definitely got the power where you've seen Boots hit. So he has the power to hurt anybody he hits. So like I said, it's not like he doesn't have a chance to beat Boots or anything like that. I wouldn't even say that. But, and that's, this is boxing. Anybody can lose on any given day. Don't take one punch and it's a wrap. So, but with that said, I feel like Boots has what it takes to be able to solve that type of problem.
last question on this particular subject. Is there any way that we can know who's the best in a division unless they fight? No. Because a lot of times we anoint guys. Oh,
too many belts, man.
Yeah, this guy's number one, that guy's number two. Oh, that's the best versus the best. And then we see one of those dudes take an interim fight and get their ass whipped. Yeah. A la Jared Hurd. Yeah. It was supposed to be Jared Hurd versus Charlo. That was the fight of the division. Yeah. And then J-Rock just comes along and just washes it.
Right. Right. That's interesting because yes and no. Because some guys you can see and you can look at what they bring to the table and you just know like they got something different, you know, regardless of who they beating. It's not just the fact that you win in fights against lesser opponents. How are you doing it? In what fashion are you doing it? You know what I mean? And that is a telltale sign of how good a guy can be. Because people try to take things away from Bud because he was with Top Rank for so long. He wasn't able to fight certain guys. He wasn't able to, you know, fight the guys that we wanted to see him against. But that doesn't take away from Bud's ability. You know what I mean? So for Bud Crawford and guys like that, I would say you can still call yourself, you know, you can't call yourself the best. You can say you're one of the best in your division and hands down one of the best in the world for sure without fighting the other guy in the division. But the way boxing is today and the way fans are, you know, I think they give too much credit to losses. And I think that's why you don't see it. You know what I mean? If it was back in the day where you can come back from a loss and still, you know, be deemed like one of the greatest out there, people would probably take more chances like that. You know, but people's idea, because of Floyd might have done some damage to the sport with that, but because of Floyd's undefeated record and the people who idolize him coming up, they put too much on the record and not on who you fight. You know what I mean? Floyd's record is, you know, you take nothing away from that. And he's fought a lot of champions, so I take nothing away from Floyd at all. I love Floyd. I love his style. But you don't have to be Floyd to be great. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't got to be Floyd to be great. So I think more guys should take those chances because if you want boxing to become, if you want to make Floyd type of money, you got to take chances, you know? You want boxing to become electric like it was back in the day, you got to take those type of fights. We got to make those type of fights and stop letting, you know, like Suge Knight said, you know, you got your promoters dancing all in the videos. You got all these promoters who don't want to do business with each other and they're taken away from the sport because they have their own personal gripes with each other. I won't name no names, but we all know how this game goes. You know what I mean? So the politics just destroys a lot of potential fights. So yes, I can say, you know, you in this era, you have to kind of like because you can't take away from Gervonta because Gervonta is not fighting some of those other guys, right? You can still say he's one of the best, and I like Gervonta, but you would love to see those guys all, you know, do what they used to do back in the day, man. Roberto Duran, Ray Leonard's, Tommy Hearns' Hagglers. You want to see those guys face each other.
Because
Wilfredo
to me,
Benitez.
We know who the best was in that era.
Yeah.
It's one guy.
Because Ray Leonard.
Yeah, Ray Leonard, he got them all. Like, so it's like the Highlander. Right. I know.
Right. There could be only one.
There could only be one.
So I guess that was like, that's the answer though for you. Like you right, I get where you're going with that. But you can't really, what can you do about it at this point? No. You know?